navigated a roundabout and met my eye and bowed his head politely to the dead. Inside the chapel, a thin crowd spread itself out across the pews and tried to fill up the room. God knows who most of them were. They wore their dullest clothes and tuned their voices to the frequencies of sadness and loss. I sat on my own. I didn't want anything to do with them. I stared down at Technicolor carpets, cheap knockoffs from The Shining from a shut-down Las Vegas casino. I wanted to meet the person responsible and find out if they were joking, or colorblind, or just a fan of Stanley Kubrick films. I wanted to tell Thurston about them because he would get it, and because, on that day of all days, I could have done with him there. And then I realized the carpets were chosen perfectly, because they took my mind off the elephant in the room, the rubbed raw stump of what was missing, the lack of my father, the lack of Ernest, who was never, ever coming back. I didn't have him for long enough. That's the bare bones of it. I wasn't ready, once I'd found him, to let go. "Do you want a song played?" I'd asked him, the week before. "When the curtains close, when your coughing goes through. Do you want a hymn or something?" He thought about it for one waterlogged, morphine-soft moment. "Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes," he said, and his voice sat like pea gravel in his mouth, sounded like mice scampering in a faraway attic. It took an age for the words to come out into the air. "If you don't know me by now, you will never, never, never know me," I sang, somewhere between laughter and tears. Thurston threw a fake funeral once. He hired a hearse, and his Uncle Mac drove it. I sat up front, and even though the coffin behind me was empty, it brooded like something moody and alive, and I kept thinking there was someone else in the car. The windshield was thick with dead flies. Thurston walked ahead on the street at this slow, slow pace in a threadbare tailcoat and a tall black hat, a face like wet thunder, streaked with tears. It was a Sunday in the suburbs, Long Beach out by Rossmore. People were washing their cars and tidying their yards, and a gang of kids were riding their bikes in circles round a run-over cat. Uncle Mac just kept driving, slow as could be, following Thurston's lead with a great big smile plastered to his face. He didn't know what was going to happen next, and he liked it that way. "I trust the boy," he said, "'cause he's a genius." I wasn't about to argue with that. The kids stopped circling, people stopped mowing and raking, and more still came right out of their houses, and everyone watched this funeral that wasn't theirs. You could see them wondering whose it was and what the hell it was doing on their street, on their weekend. And then, when we had everyone's attention, Thurston reached into his jacket pocket at the exact same time I opened the car windows and cranked up the stereo. "It's Just Begun" by the Jimmy Castor Bunch. In one fluid movement, as the music gathered itself together, Thurston took 4 homemade pigment bombs and flung them out and down on the ground in front of him. He walked and we followed, stately and respectful, through a thick and billowing cloud of colour that swelled and rose and then drifted down, clinging to his tear-stained skin and his black clothes and to our sombre, bug-stuck car. As we emerged from the colour cloud and the song kicked in, Thurston started to dance. Not just foot-tapping or finger-clicking, not just any old thing. His whole body dipped and slipped and flowed like water through the music, the notes flinging him into the air and then low and wide across the ground until the smile on my face hurt just watching him, until I forgot to breathe. God, that boy could move. Everybody but us was still, like we'd cast some kind of spell on them, like we'd stopped time.